2.3 pounds per month. Coach Greg, in today's video, we got a guy on subreddit and he's made an incredible 2.5-year transformation. Do we believe him? Was he in fact natural? And what did he do to achieve these ridiculously outstanding results? And so it says 2.5-year transformation thoughts. Age 23 to 26, and get this, the guy's 6'1" and he went from 135 pounds to 205 pounds. And if math's not your cup of tea, this guy put on 70 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years. And so it says thoughts. And so, okay, let me give you some of my thoughts. And so the first thing I notice is it is in fact true. He's not faking this. You can see the tattoos on the left versus the right. And so it's the same guy. And so although his hair looks a lot different, it's in fact much improved. He is in fact the same guy, and he has in fact put on 70 pounds of muscle. You notice in the before photo, he's posing his biceps lower than his delts, but in the after photo, he's posing his arms appropriately. But consider this, he did this in 2.5 years, gained 70 pounds of muscle, and in my entire lifetime with steroids, I only got 50 pounds bigger than I was at my very first show. And as far as the changes that I've made, the most dramatic to me are the lats. He appears to have had a lot more width. He has that X factor, that V shape. Also, you can't see it, but I do believe his legs have gotten a lot bigger. He's covering the quads with the shorts, but in the after photo, they're rolled up slightly, and so you can see the muscle underneath. And so he has, in fact, made a dramatic transformation. Trend's a crazy drug. A little test goes a long way. Eat clean, trend hard. LOL, it's 2.5 years and you regs think everything is impossible. Says a lot about the type of person you guys are. And so really, just because people say, hey, I think he did this with performance enhancing drugs, I don't believe that this guy is natural. A guy then posts, hey, it's 2.5 years. Of course he can do this natural. What's wrong with you? You all think you need performance enhancing drugs to make a transformation like this in 2.5 years? Yeah, you do. They're right. When they say this guy is not natural, it's because they're right. Notice in the title, 2.5-year transformation thoughts. Well, my first thought is this is not natural. If the title says transformation and the word natural is not in it, it means it's not natural. Because think of it, if it was actually natural, he would have said natural transformation in the title. People don't want to lie. It's not fun to lie. It's way more fun to be honest. And so if he put natural transformation, tried to deceive people, he would feel bad about himself. So why would he do that? And so he's not going to say 2.5-year enhanced transformation. You don't have to come out and out yourself like that. Perhaps he's living in the United States. Perhaps performance enhancing drugs are not legal. And so he's not going to say 2.5-year steroid enhanced transformation. He's just saying, hey, this is my transformation. Judge it for what you will. And so I'm going to do that. This is not a natural transformation. I don't believe for 1 second that this guy did this natural. Think of it, 70 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years, natural. And so really, is he going to then in the next 5 years put on another 50 pounds of muscle? Is he going to end up on the Mr. Olympia stage? I don't think so. What are you eating to bulk? And my opinion is this guy has main gain. I don't see him saying he lean bulked and did a mini cut. There's no yo-yoing up and down. So I'm going to assume that over time, he simply gained the 70 pounds over 2.5 years. And so I'm going to do the math. I'm going to show you exactly how much he'd have to eat to gain 70 pounds of muscle in 2 years. And so based on the science, the research that I've studied, it takes approximately 2,700 calories to build, that's right, build 1 pound of muscle. You probably thought it's 3,500 calories, but that's 1 pound of fat. And remember, that's factoring in the energy required to build the muscle, the work that it takes, not how many calories are in that said muscle tissue. And so there's far fewer than 2,700 calories in a pound of muscle, but it takes 2,700 calories approximately to build that muscle. And so we go 2,700 times 70 pounds, it's 189,000 surplus calories. That is how many extra calories he needed to build an incredible 70 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years. And so to factor in how many calories he needed on a daily surplus to put on all this muscle, we simply take the total amount of calories consumed divided by 2.5 years, and it works out to 207 calories a day. And so that's right, to put on all this muscle, 70 pounds in 2.5 years, he'd have to eat in a 207 calorie daily surplus. And I'm sure you're all thinking, would he eat a horse every day? Probably 1,000, 2,000 calories every single day above maintenance. Perhaps he was eating 5,000 calories every day. Force feeding. No, the harsh reality is this. Even if you gain muscle at this accelerated rate, that you're not natural. Only 200 calories a day, all you need to put on this much muscle in 2.5 years. And so ask yourself, how much muscle do you think you're going to put on in 2.5 years? Maybe half of that? 35 pounds of muscle. How many of you, raise your hand right now, would love to put on 35 pounds of muscle tissue in 2.5 years? To me, that is a lot. I weigh 188. Imagine 2.5 years from now, before my 50th birthday, I wake up and I'm 223 pounds of muscle. I could quite literally make it to the Mr. Olympia 212 stage. If I could put on 35 pounds of muscle, I'd be competing in the Olympia. And how many calories would I need to do that? About 100. An extra 100 calories a day could add on about 35 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years. And so when everyone critiques Coach Greg, Coach Greg says you don't really have to bulk. You don't need to have a huge surplus calories. Why do you think that is? Because I actually understand the math. I've done the research. I've studied this. Master's kinesiology. I know how to evaluate the data, and I explain it to you in simple terms. And so in simple terms, if you want to put on a shit ton of muscle, you only need perhaps a 200 calorie daily surplus to put on muscle at this accelerated rate. And for the most part, you're not going to put on 70 pounds in 2.5 years unless you have ridiculously amazing genetics and you're enhanced. And so in the real world, a small, tiny calorie surplus, one that's so small you probably can't even track, 100 calories, could be more than enough to put on the muscle that you so desire. In his post history, he's asking about what PDs to take and what PCTs to take post-cycle. But he's still claiming Natty like a douche. Well, I don't see him claiming Natty here. He doesn't say natural, although he doesn't say enhance. And I don't see any of his comments in the thread saying, hey, everyone, this is natural. And so I don't think he's being a douche. I think he's simply posting his picture and saying 2.5 year transformation. I really hope that the people saying this isn't obtainable naturally are joking. The transformation is impressive, but it's definitely possible with hard work alone. No, I'm sorry. And no, I don't joke. This is not possible natural. You're not going to put on 70 pounds of muscle training natural in 2.5 years. In comparison, that's more muscle that I put on in my entire life with steroids. And so considering that the majority of steroid users don't put on 70 pounds of muscle with steroids, do you really think that this guy is going to do it natural in 2.5 years? I mean, the only guys that I've seen do that natural is, of course, Mike O'Hearn. Not even the Liver King put on 70 pounds and he's 100% natural. Perhaps if the Liver King had used steroids at some point in his life, he would have been able to put on 70 pounds of muscle. But because he's natural, he just couldn't do it. You're out of your mind if you think it's impossible to put 70 pounds of muscle and fat in 2.5 years. Well, and fat, sure. If he had put on 70 pounds of muscle and fat, yeah, I do think he could have done it in 2.5 years. But I'm looking at his photo, and if anything, he's arguably plausibly lower in body fat in the after than he was in the before. Look at his stomach. Which photo does he seem to have more conditioning? Look at the arms. And so does he look like he got fat in the after photo? Does he look like he put on a ton of body fat? I don't think so. And so your comment, to me, it's not making sense. I don't hate gear. I use gear myself. I'm a competitive physique athlete. What's pissing me off, people, is the fact he claims only use creatine and protein in other subs. Also, check his post history where he's asking advice on PD stacks. And so perhaps he is a liar. I haven't seen him post on the other sites, so I can't comment on what he said there. I'm only commenting on what he's posted on my thread. But if he is in fact saying he's natural in other threads, well, I'm saying I don't believe him. I know that it's possible with just creatine and protein, and it's insane to think that it isn't when he is nowhere near his mass potential, and even 70 pounds of 100% lean tissue in 2.5 years is 2.3 pounds per month, which is well within what is naturally possible. You guys are crazy. Oh yeah, 2.3 pounds of muscle per month for 2.5 years. Let me reiterate, let me say that one more time. Even with performance enhancing drugs, steroids, growth hormones, SARMs, everything, it's not normal to put on 2.3 pounds of muscle per month for 2.5 years. And so let's look at two naturals, Jesse James West or Will Tennyson. Do you really think that if they went on steroids, that they could put on 70 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years? Jesse James' last competition was perhaps 170 pounds. 70 pounds more muscle would have him at 240. You really think Jesse James, 5'9.5" tall, going to stand 240 pounds on stage in 2.5 years? Really think about it, people. Chris Bumstead's first show, which was over 7 years ago, he was still well over 200 pounds. It's now over 7 years later, he's close to 240. And so do you really think that guys are putting on 70 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years? He's lying about taking PEDs. He states that he only took creatine and protein, which is unfair for all the naturals that think it's possible to get results like this within that time frame. In his post history, he's asked about stacks, just being cookbook honest. FYI, I'm a PED user myself. And so please, if you're natural, don't look to this transformation as motivation. Oh, I'm motivated now. He put on 70 pounds natural in 2.5 years. Yeah, you're going to be highly unmotivated when you do the same thing and hardly put on 30. And frankly, you might be lucky to put on 30. Many people, unless you have above average or elite level genetics, they're not going to put on nearly that kind of muscle in 2.5 years. Some can, but many can't. He's still very small, no offense. All you need is food for this transformation. And so there you have it. This is the problem. This is what I hate. So many people expect that anyone can put on all this muscle natural. I tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. You want to hear that with hard work, food, and creatine, that you're probably going to put on about 70 pounds of muscle in 2.5 years. But the harsh reality is that most people, even with steroids, won't gain that much weight. And if you gain half of that, that's still more than I would expect. Add 70 pounds of muscle to anyone's frame, you will see a night and day mind-blowing transformation. Curious, is this 100% natural? I mean, 70 pounds is a lot to gain. No, it's not natural, except many of the commenters think it is. And so the problem is, people who are natural watch this and think they can also do it. It motivates them, but then they try and they don't and they fail. They didn't quit the gym and say, my genetics suck. When in reality, they might have amazing genetics and they still can't gain that muscle. And so what's happening? People are showing the best physique transformations in the world, and they're not even natural. And so the people who are naturals who see those transformations, they expect to get the same results. But when they can't, they get disappointed, they get upset, and they quit. That is what I'm trying to prevent. Remember, halfway there. Imagining that dream physique, well, you're probably not getting it. Probably not going to get it. But what's wrong with getting halfway there? It's better than you are right now. And so just do better today than you did yesterday. Do better tomorrow than you did today. That's good enough. 135 pounds you is my dream man. But wow, amazing progress, and I'm sure you feel much healthier. And so there you have it. For some people, the before, 135 pounds, that is in fact their dream physique, or the dream physique of the man they picture in their future. And so regardless of how you look, please appreciate what you have. Do your best to be better than you are, but realize that nobody is perfect. And the number one recommended supplement that I have, GO2 Max, NMN's the main ingredient, and in double-blind, placebo-controlled human studies, it's been shown to have a dramatic effect on your cardio, your energy, your recovery between sets. NMN's been banned by the FDA. It's not a drug. It's not banned by WADA. You can't get it on Amazon, and so please head over to my website. Subscribe, click the bell button, and comment to boost that algorithm. Give me a like if you liked the video, and also watch one of those videos. Don't forget, Cookbook 3.0 is out. Also, all of these amazing supplements, you can get that on my website. And if you have no money, get the free diet and training program. It's close to 50 pages in length. All you do is enter your first name and your last name and your email address. All you got to do. And until next time, I am out.